All right, everyone. So WWE is inducting Paul Heyman into the class of 2024. His impact on wrestling is it's unmeasurable in some ways. Obviously, ECW no longer exists in the form like when he was running it, but at the same time, people still remember it to this day, right? I mean, WWE tried to kind of revive it, and I don't know. My guess is it doesn't even exist anymore in any form, but people still, you still will hear an ECW chant at an arena. You still see people going through and looking at the old footage because it was awesome. And the best part about, I would say, ECW is it was entirely the brainchild of somebody who just absolutely loved what he did, and he put everything into it, and the fans loved it. Everybody loved it, and it's well, when I say everybody loved it, I mean people that were watching it. Obviously there's people, oh, it's too violent and this and that, but it certainly was very violent. Uh, and there's a reason, I guess you could say, that WWE has kind of been able to grow and grow and grow and grow and kind of become this massive company, and ECW wasn't able to. And he'll talk about it, saying, well, this is a good documentary. I think it's on Peacock now. You could watch it. It was certainly on WWE Network when that existed, but it's on Peacock now, I believe. That kind of breaks down the story of ECW, and he'll go into, oh well, it was it had to do with basically, we wanted to do pay per view, we couldn't do it because we had to have X amount of, I think it was, I don't remember what it was. They weren't able to get into pay per view, but until they, I think it was they weren't able to get into pay per view until they did one. And the problem is you'd have to front the cost to do one, and so they basically they could have continued on had that not been the case, right? They could have continued on had basically things stayed the same for them, and they've been able to move into pay per view more easily. And another thing he says is basically that he grew faster. They grew almost too fast, right? That's what in the documentary. That's the point he makes, and I do think that's probably all true because you can just tell, especially in the wake of ECW, going under and being bought by WWE. Uh, you could just kind of tell that there was still love for it. So clearly, it wasn't a declining brand. It was just problems with the financials. And I do think though that even he would admit that there was a cap on what ECW could have been versus what WWE is, right? And I think that's just because of the nature of what you're doing. When you're doing that kind of extreme wrestling, hardcore all the time, and kind of the Attitude Era pushed the line in many ways, but ECW also pushed the line in many ways, right? And probably further than WWE even went. So I think, Paul Heyman's legacy is just he basically had an idea, he went out, he put all of his work into it, and it was successful for so long. And then after, when when it goes belly up, due to, like we talked about, if you watch the documentary, he goes into detail on some of that. He then went into WWE, was awesome, right? He then went into Bloodline storyline, which he's a key part in that. So he's just been a part of all these big, big moments in wrestling. And all I can say is congratulations to Paul Heyman for getting in. And second thing is go watch the documentary. I think it's the Rise and Fall of ECW. I believe that's what it is. But just look up ECW on Peacock, and you'll should be able to find that documentary. And just watch the story of this guy. If you're newer, you don't know, watch the story of this guy because it is truly one of the best stories out there. And everybody, he has a lot to be proud of. And ECW, regardless of the fact that it was bought by WWE, was a massive success because it gave people years and years of entertainment. So thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time.